Hello everybody, welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And like usual, there's links all over the screen. Feel free to click any of them. If you wanted to follow me on places on the internet, go ahead and do that. So right off the top, we're going to talk about moving. So let's get all our stuff together. We're going to start on a little adventure. And we're going to start packing up. If you've noticed over the last week, I did a few streams, not as many as I hoped. Just testing out the waters, and I plan on doing it throughout the rest of this month as well, primarily just straight on YouTube. I tried going through Google Hangouts, YouTube, and I looked at Twitch, but I didn't pull the trigger on that. What it possibly could have gained, people coming in and new viewers and stuff, which is awesome. The one thing, and the main reason why I'm looking to move again, is that Hangouts, and I just found out about the YouTube one. Both of those, once they're completed, you can they're just auto-uploaded, which takes a lot of time away from me, having to upload and do the very slight editing that I do. And I can usually when I have to do that stuff, I have to kind of stay off my computer, which might sound really odd. Or if I have to render and things like that. Anyway, long story short, what I plan on doing is most likely the first week of December or the second week. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. Probably the second week, because the first one is going to be our critique show, and I think everybody's more comfortable coming through here on Picarto. So just plan on that. And like I say, by all means, follow me all over the internet, wherever you're looking at me or whatever you try to follow. And if you're free at a certain time that I'm streaming, by all means, come pop by and let me know how it goes. The way it sounded was a lot of people were enjoying the YouTube one. We were able to have a chat, all the good stuff that we need. And that's great. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. The second thing here is what we're going to be doing today is working on some Jesop King. And this will be the webcomic we're going to be starting up soon. This is actually page 1. And it's interesting because I haven't really made pages in Manga Studio in a very long time. Like a very, very long time. And I've been trying to do a little bit of stuff in between client work and stuff just to get the file sort of like laid out right. So this is sort of a test of playing with font sizes as well as trying to find brushes and things that are adequate for the needs. So some of the things that are like not really, well, they're all comic book related. Everything we're going to be talking about is actually comic book stuff. The difference here is this has nothing to do with writing or drawing or anything like that. It just has to do with like what page size you're going to go with, gutter sizes, text, that stuff. The stuff that I don't think most people think about. It's just sort of like it comes up towards the end. And really, it shouldn't be something I don't think that you spend too much time on. But it can really break like a really good story you have, or even the art you're doing can get kind of like shoddy, right? So, just taking a stab at what we're going here, I did look at some reference from other webcomics that I enjoy, text sizes as well. The size I'm actually drawing at for these pages is 8.5 by 11. So that would be like regular printer paper. Now, there's two reasons for this. One of them is if I do ever plan on printing any of these as mini comics, as we've talked about before, 8.5 by 11 actually fits very perfect in making like just a regular piece of paper and folding it twice. You guys can do that on your own. I know I have a video of that on my channel if you guys are interested in doing that. Just checking it out, and I really like that size of mini comic. It seems very natural, and there's still lots of room to draw and leave room for detail and all that good stuff in there as well. And the second reason is, the primary reason for doing this is I maybe down the road I'll look about printing and things like that, but for the most part it's just meant for web, right? That's really the only interest I have for it. It's just primarily everything's for web. I don't have to worry about printing and all that just now. Down the road, who knows? But for now, it's all about just publishing to the web. And 8.5 by 11, I notice, is actually a very good size. It's a little bigger than a square, but you don't have to scroll to see the whole page. And that's actually really cool, because one of the big things I always hate when looking at webcomics is books that are 8.5 by 11 that are, if they're too small, they look pretty bad on a screen. And then if they're too big, you got to scroll to see the like half of the last panel. And I don't know, it's kind of sucky to me. I'm not a fan of that. So that's sort of what I was thinking about with doing this. So without that, let's start doing some drawing here. And I thought it'd be cool just to do the page 1 with you guys. I don't know if we're gonna finish the whole page, especially the line art and stuff, but I can kind of go over the general workflow of what's going on. So actually, let's back up, because I think you guys might get something in, like something in this might be interesting to you. So like, how do we do the comic? What's going on? If you guys have been listening to everything I've been saying since leaving Castle Dracula to do this, it's very okay. So sorry, the scan that I put in here is like garbage 100 DPI. So let me just zoom out so you can kind of see what's going on. I made a post on like Tumblr and Twitter and all those things of what I'm doing for this book. What I did is I just made a quick document in Photoshop that has like these square sizes that are pretty much 8.5 by 11, and I filled up a whole page. So there's like how many here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Let me just actually bring it up so you guys can see it. We got thumbnails here. Okay, so this is pretty much it, and I just scanned it in so that I have it. Now, how I'm going about writing this is very similar to how I wrote my first few mini comics that you guys, I haven't really shown you guys too much of that stuff. But all I've done anyway, is just figured out like roughly how many pages do I think this would be. For whatever reason, I like having like that sort of constraint on me, and like I said, this isn't intended for web, so page count is kind of irrelevant to a point because I'm not really concerned with necessarily how many pages are in there. I'm trying to be conscious of it just in case you do go to print, of like page turns and stuff and having reveals. That is one thing. Just as you can see, like I have groups of 2 pages, and this would be how they go, right? So if you were opening the book, this one here, right here, would be the cover, and then this would be page 1, right? So I am trying to be a little conscious of that, just trying to do a little bit of like forward thinking when it comes to that, because again, you never know. But I don't want to constrain myself because this is meant to be pretty much web only. So what I do is I just sort of, I've talked about it before, and I guess we may as well just kind of go over this whole thing. And before we go into like a little bit more in depth, I plan, since we're doing this, it'll be great videos for you guys because it sort of combines that how to make a mini comic into this as well. So all I really did for this is, and I've talked about this method before, and I've heard it from, the first place I ever heard it from was Doug Tenaple. So you grab 3 note cards. I love writing on note cards. They just feel more official. So I'd grab 3 note cards or index cards, recipe cards, whatever you call them. And I just put them down as Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And what I do is, let's just do a generic one here. We'll do like Legend of Zelda, okay? So break this up. How does this go? So I always like to start with the ending. So let's just say saves princess. I'm trying to go real quick with this because I do want to get some drawing done today. So saves princess. So what would be the opposite of that is your Act 1. Princess kidnapped. Or you could do prince if this is a female in there. And what's in between? What happens? What's the transformation between the kidnap and the saving the princess? So we'll just say hero defeats evil. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So what I would do from here is do 3 more note cards, and I'll just do this last one here to kind of show you guys. And I would do Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 here, and do the exact same thing I just did. So what does save the princess mean, right? Rescues princess from tower. Okay, so the opposite would be evil guy has princess captive. You can't really, I'm not going to read it here. Captive in a tower. 2, hero defeats villain. Okay. And then you do the exact same thing for this one, and this one's kind of weird, right? This is like your Act 2, hero defeats evil. Like, that's so big. It's like such a chunky thing. But this could be, you could throw in a dragon here. You could throw in, maybe evil is just an evil spell. It's an evil place. It's an evil thing. It might not just be like Ganon or the big bad guy. It's just something evil in there, right? And then you do the same thing for Act 1, right? And that's as far as I go. Normally, like what Doug Tenaple talked about, is once you get these 3, you do this all over again. You do 3 for each, and you have to put something crazy like 27 cards. What that does is those are basically your plot points, okay? These are very critical of what's going on. So if these are your plot points, if we go back to my thumbnails here, whoops. If those are my plot points, what I would do is sort of figure out where they are going to be placed in the story. Like, when does my Act 1 end? We'll say, I actually wrote it here. Like, if we go up here, right here, Act 1 ends right here. So I know if I were to look at these cards, right? I've got those 3 cards, so there's 3 beats or 3 plots that I want to hit before that page. And you can make that as big or as long as you want. I won't get into that. We'll get into that into like a better video than what I'm doing here. And that's pretty much it. And then you just go in between. Now the second step that I do in here as well, and this is from reading a book called Save the Cat. I recommend you guys check it out if you're into writing. Or it's an interesting way, not a formula, but I guess it is a formula. But for me, I find it very I like that stuff because I'm not a big writer, right? It's something that I need to break my teeth off into and just get better at. So it's just like when you're drawing, right? You're looking for anatomy books and structure books. Like, how do I break down something as complex as anatomy? Well, you need some gesture work and you need people that know what they're doing to teach you or give you hints that might help you along the way. It's the exact same thing for writing. So the one thing that book taught me, and you see it in a lot of Hollywood movies, is like the B story. So if the A story is the hero saving the princess from a tower, what's the B story? Maybe the B story is it could be somebody else, right? It could be a cat looking for its wizard mentor who's captured or lost. Let's just say it's that. So in between these right here, these 3 points, I would have to figure out, okay, so I'm going to have to put 3 more beats. Just 3. I didn't really break them down of the beginning, middle, and end of that. So maybe in the beginning here, the hero stumbles across a cat that says, I'm looking for so-and-so. Can you help me? The hero says, I would love to, but I'm on the way here. Maybe we can help each other out. Great. So as they're going in Act 2, maybe at the end, the cat and the hero find the wizard, right? And they're like, oh God, you saved us, thank you. So now the hero, the wizard, and the cat, they all help in defeating the villain. It just helps add a little extra to the story, I find. That just gives it like another layer that you can peel. That doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be something small. It could just be, your hero learns to whistle. I don't know. Who knows what the hell that could do, right? Maybe it summons this giant space whale or something. All sorts of things. But that's the cool stuff. I really enjoy this, and this I'll actually spend a little bit of time just trying to figure out something that I would be enjoying drawing, right? And you'll notice there's not much story going on here at all, like in terms of dialogue. And that's where this method, excuse me, sort of comes in. And it's very like off the hip and very organic. And I know some people, I've talked about trying to write up a full script, and I do believe there's times and practices for that if I knew that it was going to be something. Now, if I were to write a full script, the way I like to work anyway, is that takes time, and the script has to be almost pretty much done, right? Like first or second draft. And I might actually prefer that for a graphic novel, but what I'm trying to do, and what I found out that happened while working with Castle Dracula, was that's exactly it. I was trying to script a graphic novel, and it was getting way out of control, and I wasn't drawing, I wasn't working, I was spending all my time writing, and that was the part that was breaking me up inside, is I want to draw. So with this method, what you do is, if you zoom in here, let me just zoom in and just show you the page we're working on. I know where the story's going because of those beats, and I'm just putting in these rough bubbles here, right? So Jesop would be saying, it's okay, we're going to find some fuel diamonds. And Momo here is just saying sigh, right? This is just like what I'm thinking of as I draw. When I get to actually texting and writing in here, I can go ahead and figure out and think and go, okay, you know what would actually be a better way to write all this? Maybe Momo's going to say more than just sigh. Maybe sigh and then a little shot, like a jab. That sort of thing like that. And that's really how the writing goes. So what this means is, yeah, the writing probably won't be the best thing you've ever written, and the art might just carry the whole thing. And personally, I'm okay with that. But that's where this whole experiment's going to be going. And as you can see, if we just zoom out, I did that for this whole arc. I think I ended, my first pass at this, I got to page 14, I believe it is. And we've still got, I think there's, let me just see off the side here, 24 pages for the first story. So that's where this was going anyway. So again, if you want, go back, re-listen to all I was saying after this is recorded, and just sort of go over it again. I will do videos of this because I think it's actually very exciting, and I hope it does help some people, because I know it's not really, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it's not the best way of doing something, but it does get you doing something, and I think that's actually pretty important. At least I find for myself. So we scanned in our thumbnails. I made my frame here. As you can see, this is 8.5 by 11. But what I'm noticing right now is, as I draw with these tools, like, things are getting pretty fine. Like if we zoom in, That looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. I do have a window open in my second monitor here with the size that it might be on mobile. And then I can kind of zoom in a little bit more as well for what I think it would be on web. And the only real way to test this, unfortunately, is just the exact same way you're doing 11 by 17 comics or superhero comics, is I recommend everybody do this, especially if you're working digital. If you're working traditional, don't worry about it. But if you're working digital, spend your heart, like it's a portfolio piece, the best that you would normally do. Not the best art you've created, but what you would normally do for comics. Make it 11 by 17. If you have a printer at home, print it out on like scale it down to what a comic book size would be. Go to your printer, like a print shop, like what do you guys got in the States? What's it got? Here it's Staples. There it's Kinko's, I believe it is. Just get it printed out. Spend the under $1 to do it. And I know it might seem like a lot of work, but what it does is it tells you right away the settings you're using, what they will actually look like when they do see print. And that's very important. So what I have to do is, and again, everything I'm doing, I do recommend you guys try if you ever get around to doing this sort of stuff, is I'm going to have to make this page 100% all the way to the end. And then look at it on a computer screen and then look on it on a phone, a couple phones, and see how it looks. And if it looks good, those are the settings we're going to go ahead and go with. All right, so now without talking so much, let's just get into doing some pictures, some silly pictures. So I got my roughs done. You can kind of see the thumbnails that I had underneath. I'm going to lower the opacity again. I've been getting really into, let me turn this off because we're not going to need this. I've been really getting into doing my roughs. Let me just turn this. These are black lines, but it's like a dead pixel brush. There's no pressure sensitivity or anything like that. It's gross. It's actually very difficult to draw like this because I want to kind of go in here and like, these hands aren't right. But what it's really doing is it's just letting me see the most important part, which is the shapes and where things are positioned on the page, right? So if we zoom out, this is essentially it. That's it. That's it. And that's all I need. So the next stage that I'm going to do here is we're going to go in and we're going to lower the opacity on this. And I'm going to use, this one we're going to use like a pressure sensitive brush. I'm going to actually make it bigger than I would normally ink with though, because for me, it's always big and then get it smaller for your detail work, right? So when things are big that you're drawing with, it's very hard to get in there and start noodling. Jesop, come on. It's hard to get in there and start noodling because you'll fight it. You'll want to do that at every stage. Like look at this right here. This is going to be Jesop here, and the ship, I'm still working on that. It's a SketchUp model because I don't want to be drawing a spaceship all the time. But look at him. What is that? That's like, it's like a Christmas tree, right? But we're going to have to mold this into things. And that's, I find it's a very efficient way to work. Instead of worrying about like the anatomy and things being perfect and the gesture being perfect before you get in there. So Millennium Man was saying, oh, thanks. He's agreeing with me, saying get your stuff. Millennium got his stuff printed in 11 by 17 every year for Comic-Con. Helped me get my settings just right. Awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. Alright, so let's get this all out of the way, and let's start with our big guy. I'm going to zoom out again. I don't want to stay zoomed in. I want the whole panel in the shot. Again, zooming in smaller brushes, you tend to get stuck in there. So pull out again. Like when I was doing this, it was about this size when I had the dead gross brush. Okay, and even if you had like a giant fight scene with a bunch of guys fighting, that's fine because the composition is what's the most important here. Alright, and again, we're not really worrying too much about things being too perfect here, because we don't want to lose all of the life in these stages. I just want enough here that will carry me into doing the actual inks here. So we got to get his big silly mustache. Make him look like he's smiling. His neck. And this is really where I would start to worry about anatomy and things, but you can kind of notice what I'm doing, and this is something I find, and it could just be me, but when you're doing comic book work, like most of the stuff, if you go back and watch any of the videos we're doing, or even when we were talking about critiques and stuff, a lot of the times, it's always like, okay, well, your structure's wrong, your form's wrong, and we go in there and we just start going like, okay, well, here's the chest, right? Here's where the shoulder goes. And that's all very important, and we will actually do that. But with shots like these, it's more, for me anyway, I've noticed that I get a lot more, like, I get better results, but not necessarily doing that. More just feeling out where the shapes should be to help accentuate the story that's being told, right? Because we're always trying to figure out what is an efficient way of telling, like, without show don't tell, right? That's one of the things we're always comic book artists are always told and taught, is don't tell us what's going on, just show us. So what does that mean? What's the language there? What is it that would be the best way of showing the people what's going on? And sometimes perfect anatomy is like the worst thing you can do. It just stiffens the figure up, and it starts breaking things up. And lately, like what I did talk about a few weeks back, was oh, it's gonna get annoying. Let's just bring that back up there. There we go. A few weeks back, we were talking about, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have studied as much anatomy as I did. More so gesture and structure, as opposed to, well, the muscle goes here, so it has to look like that, and that kind of stuff. Structure meaning I could draw like anybody in any position in boxes and cylinders, and break even, like, start chiseling away those, so that there's like, okay, well, this is what a forearm would look like, this is what this would look like, and so basically what I'm doing right here, like, look at this hand, gnarled as F. There's nothing going on here, right? So I'm insinuating that there's knuckles here, or sorry, like the finger knuckles. I don't know, what are they called? Are they finger knuckles? And then we got like the actual hand knuckles up here, right? But like there's always better ways of doing this. Like, look at this forearm. It's just a line. Nothing's connecting it. I did draw before underneath of it, but there's things I could have done in here that would give it more structure, right? That I feel aren't really being represented here. So what I wanted to have here is him just sort of like maybe twisting something where the fuel cell would go. And in this universe, at least it's going to help play into the story. It's a diamond is what his ship uses. You just put straight diamond slivers in there, and it converts it into fuel. So I don't know if we're going to write fuel on here, but I'm just going to put it on there just in case. Because, again, this is going to be the ship model that we're making in SketchUp. And I know he's going to say some stuff. I forget. There was something I had over there. I believe it was him just saying, don't stress out so much, because all we got to do is just get some fuel cells and we're good to go. And Momo's design, if you guys go back, I know we did one over, what was it, a week ago, of the witch design. And the more I was looking at it, the more I started to hate it for a lot of reasons. Let me actually just pull up. Where do we have it here? Open. Momo pinup, where's that? Inks? I don't know if we started doing inks yet, but I know I didn't go any further than what it was at. Oh, I did. I guess I did do the inks. Okay, so in here, there's some things that I really do actually enjoy when I look at it. But what's going on is it's too busy. There's too much going on. Whereas one of the initial designs I had was a male character. Let me just pull that up. I believe I have it here. I don't want to always show old stuff with you guys. Do I have one, or are we going to be SOL? Yeah, it looks like we're SOL. Uno momento. Was it a website thing? No? Okay, well, anyway, I'll see if I can find it for another time for you guys. But it was literally just, if it felt a lot like, if you guys have seen Dragon Quest, I just noticed there's a character in there, which is, no matter what you do, your designs will always seem like they can be theoretically ripped off from somewhere else, right? So it was, it looked very similar to that. And the more we started playing, right, with, okay, well, maybe she's a witch, and because I want to bring the fantasy into the sci-fi, like a Star Wars sort of feel. I'm more into that sci-fi as opposed to Star Trek. like the high tech, everything's legit. I like coming. I like the idea of knights and paladins, goblins, ogres, beholders, dragons, starships, space worms, like all of that, right? Like I like the idea of all of that. So I didn't want to. I don't want it to go too slick with what's going on there, right? So I'm not 100% sold on what this design is. It is very busy, and it is. But the actual good thing with it is it does contrast very heavily to just the generic Jesop King design that we do have. So I'm not 100% what's going on just yet. I might end up keeping it right here. I don't know. The eyes, thanks. Bamfy saying we got some nice eye sparkle happening there. Appreciate it. But I was actually thinking of getting rid of the eyes and going more with shapes like this. And this actually starts to feel a little bit more like what's it called, like Adventure Time, and what's it called, like just basically anime sort of things, right? Trying to go on the side of it being fun, cute. People will enjoy it. Now the difference here, right, is that this is still like there is still some enjoyment going on here. So for what we're gonna doing for the case of today anyway, we're not gonna be doing Momo's design just yet. We're just going to put the placeholders of where she would be. Okay. So here, I just want to have a little bit of, see if we can get a little bit of acting in here. So I want to have like the cheek kind of getting squished up. Another one kind of pointing over. Be a little careful with it because I don't want it to make it look like it's just that sort of where it comes out, right? So this should probably be gone. Maybe we can bring it up over here. So I'm just going to insinuate where the eyes are. And I've got really two big tasks here to do before I can start to really move forward with it. Is come up with the design for her and Jesop ship. And what I'm doing for him is I'm trying to grab a bunch of SketchUp models, and I'm going to start reaching out to some people to see if we can purchase some of their models and things. So it's not all just like I'm just straight swiping people's work here and cobble together pieces. It's sort of like an artist friend told me about this, and I really do enjoy the style of it. I've enjoyed it for a very long time. Just what he said was, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." But it's basically just cobbling together pieces of tech to make tech. So that's what his ship is starting to come. It's like a turbine from this to jam into here to look into this to do that sort of stuff like that. Stick her tongue out here. All right. So let's get into this one here. And what I'm noticing already, like working with this kind of size, is how fast it'll go. And to be fair, it's just characters right here. There's no real background going on. So it's not like there's like a gigantic amount of work that's happening with these here. So I know they're having an argument here. Let me just check my. I don't even think I wrote anything in that argument. No, I didn't. So this is what I'm talking about, right? So I know they're having an argument. The text that's there doesn't matter right now because it's the acting of them arguing, or at least one person has a problem, right? Now, like I say, all of this stuff here is just generic in there. I put this text in here just to like test it out, the side part. So even just knowing that, all we need to do is just have again that acting in here. And I do like Jesop kind of walking around while Momo's over there. So here we can kind of just go into those actual moments here. So I don't want him just standing there like I was just drawing. I want him kind of like he's on the move over to this fuel thing. Maybe shrugging. It would be a badass ship, a hairdryer with a. I had a friend talking about what was it? I shouldn't say it. Doesn't really matter. It's probably inappropriate for here. But here, I'll actually just punch up the SketchUp model right now that I'm putting together for it, so you guys can kind of see. It's about three pieces right now put together to sort of form the ship. Jesop ship. Where we at right now? All right, so bring it over here. So this is where it's currently at right now. This gigantic turbine that looks like something might be out of Star Wars, like a pod racer. I'm going to shrink it down. I'm going to remove those wings that's on his ship there. Uh, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them, tilt them or something like that. There's a few models that I was looking at that I would like to reach out to those people to see how much it cost for them to purchase something like that so that I can put it in here. Again, so I'm not swiping everything and, try to make it a little bit more legit. But what I really did like in here is that there's cockpits in here, right? So Jessup would be in the front here. We got Momo in the back, but it's also, like as you rotate, I can already see some really cool shots that we can do here, right? And the idea of this is, I was talking to somebody else about like at what point does this stuff become just tracing and copying, right? And I can't really argue it. Like there was a time when I used to say like, well, the defense would be, well, when you use a ruler to make straight lines with like a pen, is that cheating? Because if you draw enough times, you should be able to make it straight. Those sorts of arguments, I think they hold weight. But when it's just straight, put this in and and go. I'm with you. I understand it. The flip side, and this is the business side coming out, and the side that I have to side on is what do you want really out of your stuff, right? Like there's definitely an honor and a pride that comes out of being able to draw, like we'll say in this case, this shot right here, the spaceship shot, right? Like just having this sort of shot, drawing it, and it works out awesome. Now the other side of it too is, but I want to have more shots like this quicker and just have more pages and panels done. And just swiping and jazzing it up, adding certain things on there, removing certain things to give it a feeling of that it's not totally just a 3D model. That's something else that's added. But I guess what I'm trying to say with is like I can't really argue against. It's just straight copying and people being offended or upset about it. That's fine. I just the more I work with this sort of stuff like this, I'm noticing how much more fun a lot of this work is, and where I can spend the time drawing what I like to draw. And if people get butthurt about it, that's cool. I just don't care anymore, and it's not a fight that I even want to have anymore or try to defend. That's really how it kind of goes. And I think the more digital everything just goes, this stuff is just an inevitability, right? When you start hearing about DC artists, Marvel artists, people that you might look up to or jobs you want, where you would think these guys and girls are just drawing out of their head from years of study, perfect things all the time, and you find out they're not, it's sort of like cracks that perfection armor that we sort of give them, right? So I just wanted to. I don't even know why I went into that. I just wanted to bring it up because I know there's going to be the comments in the not in the chat. You guys are all legit, but it's usually on YouTube where people start to get a little butthurt. But anyway, there's really cool stuff in here that I'm gonna get rid of and add to, like just stuff like this. But anyway, this is where we're kind of going. So I know the ship is gonna be here, and it's got to be bigger than this. It feels like it's just a little dinky thing. And the more you find out about Jessup, it's this isn't big enough. But these kinds of things, I already like the idea of strapping two of them, like back here somewhere, or maybe even up here. I think that'd be really sick. Not that big, of course, but he's gonna go light speed, but he's not gonna go to he's not gonna go to plaid going so fast. Let me just go up there. So make sure yeah, we're actually doing comic book cage today. Hey, how weird is that? Enable it there. That's so good. All right, so let's go in here. Let's do this up here. So and maybe she'll still have the witch's hat. I'm not sure. I just put it in for now. And we're going to put the lines kind of coming this way. So again, the composition is important. So I'm trying to get them to point to him, but I don't want, if I bring them this way, it gives her the feeling that she's moving towards Jessup, and I don't really want that. Maybe we can put that book over there just in case. We're going to go ahead and stick with it. And this background's pretty much on point. I don't really need to fix too much of this up. I mean, we're gonna go in there and you know, add things and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and let's do this second panel here. So we got our roughs. Let's turn those mofos to blue. I'm gonna go into our lines layer, and you know what? It's probably a good habit to start doing this, so we may as well. So I'm gonna put P1 for panel. Make a new layer. Oops. Just lower the opacity on the roughs there. Okay, so we got that. Let's get our deadline tool. Yeah, let's do it. Oops. Hey, Jesop, let me move this over here for you, bud. I'm actually working on a commission here. You guys all know our good friend Lars. He's always in the chat from time to time. He's commissioned me to do a Batman versus Red Hood, and I posted a picture of it yesterday, just the roughs. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to record like this stage, right, going from here to the final inks, and we're going to do a time lapse video of that as well, because that's one thing that I haven't been able to really get to. As great as the streaming stuff is, I do know there's people out there that you see a video, and I'm like that too, man. I'll look and it's like, how long? An hour? No, I'm out. I don't, especially like, and the thing is too, it's just me talking. It's not like there's a whole crew of cats here talking. So I know exactly the pain that's going on with that. But the streaming, like I alluded to in the beginning there, it's so easy to do. But I do miss just looking over artwork, right, and just going, oh, okay, let's just grab something to drink. That's way too small. Just grab something to drink and just watch some drawing going on and just kind of talk about, you know, the process. And it's cool to go over, like, what I enjoy doing it is like going back and looking at this stuff like a few days after or even a week after drawing it, and you're just like, oh man, like I remember bits and pieces of it, but it's sort of like watching a new thing kind of come to life there. It's kind of cool. I know, I think Lars actually posted something on Facebook. Could be wrong. About a video game. I don't know if it was Fallout or what. Or maybe I'm just confusing with somebody else. But if it was him, he was pretty much saying, you know, like, he's out. He's out for a while. In order to bring this to your guys' attention, I talked about this in the last stream, because again, I know a lot of people don't watch the full videos. But when you're working in this workflow, if you notice, like, look how gross this art is. Like, none of these lines are hitting points. Like, what is that? Look at this. Like, what is that? It's fat here and then goes light. Like, that's not a nice line. Like, the quality is pretty shot there. But as the one part that I just want people to remember, if you try this, this Freddy method, as I like to call it. And I know it scares some people off, because when you're looking at your stuff while you're drawing, it's like, ugh. It doesn't have like that thin to thick all the time, so it has that feeling of just like, you know, like this is not up to I know I can draw better, and you don't like to stick with it, right? However, once you get to the inking stage and you start inking in black and white, you can fix these things, like, and it's very quick. It's not a big deal. And the thing is, this is actually the most important thing to remember when we're working like this in general, even if you're just using like legit microns or something with you know, like real tools, is once, like, let's say I go in here and I start inking his hair and his mustache, like in all these black areas, when you zoom out, when you zoom out, a lot of the mistakes start going, or mistakes, I'll call them that. Excuse me. But a lot of things start disappearing. and your eye gets drawn around so much because of where you're going to be rendering and stuff like that, that you don't actually see a lot of these things that most of the time I would slave over this sort of thing. And it's, again, I know it's a style choice, but it is something I just want to point out because I know some people will be, they do get a little discouraged when working like this, and it might feel like you're doing more work than what you'd like to be working. Again, I would just, I always sound like I'm peddling this stuff, but I just wish you give it a shot for some of you guys just to see what you think, and give it like an honest effort, and just sort of I believe that once you start getting towards the end of your drawing, like actually getting in there to ink, you start to notice or you're like, oh, okay, like something clicks, and it just starts to sort of come together. You're like, oh, maybe I didn't see it that way, or I was looking at it a little weird, you know. All right, let me just move this stuff over here. I'm just getting some reference on the side of the screen here. Ann is asking, will you be working on comic pages for your stream? I would like to. We're gonna see what's going on. If not, if at most it'll probably just be panels, because I do really want to make a push to have like a point to my Patreon besides people just helping me out and supporting me. Like obviously that's amazing that people want to do that anyway. I want it to be contextual besides just YouTube videos. So a lot of what a lot of people doing webcomics do on Patreon is what I would like to do. So like behind the scenes sort of stuff. But for the most part, like I don't want to take anything away from what we normally do here. So I'm trying to be pretty gross with these things here. And something else that's really cool too, or at least this, what's really exciting about all this is the where's it gonna go? How long am I going to, or how long is it gonna take till I'm like totally burnt out? And the fact that all of this stuff is meant to be quick, like I don't want these pages to last as long as it would take to do like a normal 11 by 17 Spider-Man swinging through New York superhero stuff, right? Like I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun. Like that doesn't sound like something totally fun to do in off time. I enjoy doing that when it's go time on like an actual published book or something. Not to diminish web comics at all, but one of the benefits of doing this stuff, right, is like you're able. And I recommend everybody do this. I mean, I haven't published anything yet for this, so I'm talking out of my ass with assumptions, but having an outlet to do your own thing and sharing it with people and having feedback as limited or as massive as it is huge. Being the person that tells everybody else what's the right call to make is very empowering. Very empowering. Yes, he only has 3 fingers. So some of you guys, well, probably don't know yet because you guys haven't read the comic because the comic doesn't exist yet. He's not a human, even though everything about him looks humanish. Again, here I'll just for the new people in there, whatever. This is him here. That's him in all his glory with his Pokeballs. Can't wait to start using some of that stuff. High Action Jackson here. Jesop King just flipping around, doing his thing. Doing a little take care of business there. But he's part team. I forget how he had the 3 fingers. I think I was drawing something, and it was just really gnarled hands. Or first couple times I was drawing him, he was just like massive amounts of muscles, right? Just like disgustingly so. And I drew something, and like for whatever reason, like a full set of digits just looked really whack on him. So we went down to 3 and was like, all right, I mean, it works. It's cool. It's cool. This first story here too is it's pretty. I want to think of this one. Maybe you guys get a little excited for it. Is it's really like watching a cartoon episode. This first one. There's a moral to it. I don't know yet how in your face it's gonna go. It's pretty evident. But ideally, what I would like is the overall theme, or the way that the book would go, or the webcomic, I should say, is like the X-Files is a great example. So the X-Files, let's say at the start of a season, Mulder and Fox, or Fox and Fox and Mulder. Oh my God. Fox sorry, Mulder and Scully. Let's just call them by their last names here. Mulder and Scully. Uh, they might be doing something and they notice an alien invasion, or not invasion, but a UFO go by. And then at the end of the episode, it's like, but we can't. The government tells them they can't tell them. So the whole, the A story of that is, do they find this alien? Okay, but the B story is what you might call filler, and what that filler is just monster of the week, they call it. So here's a vampire, here's weird paranormal shit, right? But in those episodes, the point of them is, yeah, it's cool to see these characters not just driving for a plot, just how they act in a situation, and it's character development. And I really enjoy that. There's something about that that's really beautiful. And it allows you like range, right? Like I can go on with the heavy, deep plot stuff of what does this mean, and who's Jesop, and where how did him and Momo get together, and how did, like, that stuff, right? Like that's cool. That's stuff that I think people, and this is just going over everything. Like when I enjoy a comic book series or anything, when I hear that, if I really enjoy it and I know that I could go back, excuse me, and I can go back and go like, oh wow, I can go to like the expanded universe. Star Wars is great for this. You guys might not like Star Wars and stuff. That's cool. That's not the point here, but just knowing that that's out there, that's awesome stuff. And that's what I would like to do with it, because I do have some plot stuff that's in here, and I don't want it always to be like goody two shoes sort of stuff. I would like a little bit of an edge to it, not blood and guts, but just fun. And entertaining is probably the best word for it. Just entertainment is what I'm looking for. Which kind of leads me to a point where it's like, well, I don't know if this would be the first pages that people would see. Like, is this chapter one? If I'm trying to go after that formula of, well, you got to follow the plots, right? Like, what is this season? We'll call it. What is season one's main plot? And if I don't have that just yet, well, then I don't want to not do work. So what I'm doing is I'm doing this in the background. Well, with you guys here so you can see it. But I'm doing this. But this hopefully will be like chapter 2. So chapter 1, who knows how many pages that'll be, but that's like the meat. This is what season 1 is about. And then we can start doing these monster of the weeks until we kind of going back and forth. So anyway, I just wanted to say that so you guys might, if for you guys writing and stuff, you guys might dig it and you guys might get into something like that. And I hope you guys do. I hope like that sounds fun, and it seems like it's a fun way to take a breather when you're writing, right? Like what we're doing here, people doing their own work. It's very demanding to write and draw. But one thing that really centers me, it sort of keeps things real for me, is I just remember, like, do you know how many amazing artists are already doing webcomics? So many are awesome artists right there, and they've already done the hard work of starting a freaking book. So to sit back and go like, what does the story mean and all that, like, I feel is very detrimental to what you're trying to do, and it doesn't give you any benefit to wait. There's people out there, all it takes is just a little bit of research, just to look around, and you can start to figure out, like, okay, I see what people have done, and that makes sense, or I didn't really agree with what they did there. Maybe I want to try something a little different. And this stuff, again, looks really nasty, but once we go in there and we start cleaning a lot of this up with black and white ink, we can kind of go there. All I need is, like, the form, right? Pillow saying, I've noticed Canadian's friend has been mentioning X-Files lately. Is there something going on with X-Files in Canada? I'm not sure. I actually just watched X-Files for the first time this year, and it was on Netflix, and I unhealthily watched episodes back to back, and I did skip I'd say I'd skipped probably 70% of those Monster of the Week episodes, the character ones, because I was more interested in the alien stuff, right? Like, what do they do? Do they find them? And like that sort of stuff. And I know, yeah, I believe the new season is supposed to, maybe it already did. I don't think so, but it's supposed to start very soon. I'm actually very excited. I think at least when I saw it now, I thought it was an amazing, amazing show, and I really do wish I had watched it while it was actually on the air. Very much like Seinfeld. I caught Seinfeld is the greatest TV show I've ever seen. It's the only show I can watch every single day, and I've seen every single episode, and I'm totally okay with it. And I got into that bandwagon way late. Maybe like 8 years ago, I finally started watching Seinfeld, and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. Oh, and I wrote this thing down this morning, so I know that the show is almost done. And I wish there was a little bit more drawing going on, but I always find when I get to talk with you guys, that's my problem. I just talk too much. Well, two things. Actually, one, you guys might get a kick out of this. There was somebody who just posted a comment, and if you're watching this video, cool. Uh, go back if you guys are interested in it. It starts off with, fuck you. That's the comment that they left. It was for my Huion GT220 Part 2 review. And the guy was very upset that all I did was talk and I didn't show anything. And the guy got pretty butthurt about it. That's fine. That's all that stuff there. But this thing is, so I was starting to get up earlier. I'm up to like 6 a.m. now. I'm going to start pushing over probably the next month to start getting back up at 5 a.m. just incrementally there, so I can do a few hours of this before I go to the day job. But I just wanted to give a quick progress report because I know some of you guys are interested, and I hope some of you guys are doing, or trying anyway, to get up a little early, or even if you're interested, just hearing some of the things that some of us are going through with it. Oops, that's not how that goes. We're gonna have to clean this up because this is getting kind of hairy over here. But I wrote this thing down, and it was, I forget where I was hearing it or whatever, but it was, so what I've been trying to do is 2 hours a day of client work, which doesn't seem like a lot. You know, if you've got deadlines, it always seems like, well, I'm staying up late tonight. And if it's like a do or die sort of thing, like it has to be done tonight, okay, for sure. But these like fake deadlines or deadlines we'd like to hit that we put in our own heads, I find for myself, it puts way too much stress on me, and I just don't end up doing work. I don't. I'll do something else. I'll play a video game. I'll watch a movie. I'll watch back-to-back episodes of Seinfeld. Something that probably shouldn't do, right? But I can't do it. So what I've been doing, and I've actually been having really good results with it, is every day I have three things that I have to hit, and these are what I get stressed out about. So 2 hours of client work, 30 minutes of a personal project, which is this, or it could be a commission if I have to, and 15 minutes of study. That's every day that I work at my day job. If it's a day off, then yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the day, have a whole pot of coffee, and just rock art, right? Like that's the sweet shit. But the thing is, what I was noticing is like, well, only 2 hours a day is kind of lame. There's, if I've probably got about 5 to 6 hours at most when I get done work to do stuff. And there's a lot of stuff you have to do. And what ends up happening, right, is if you need to see somebody, cooking, cleaning your house, whatever, blah, 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 it takes a lot of that time away. So 2 hours is something I can definitely hit, and sometimes it's very hard to hit it. But if all I do is at 2 hours, it's an accomplishment in and of itself. So what I wrote down was, it's not about completing something every time you sit down. It's about building daily until it's complete. Okay? So just to shorten that up, it's not about sitting down and every time you sit down you have to finish something. It's about sitting down and just doing work, and eventually as long as you're doing that, it will become done. And that's been actually really huge for me. I've noticed a lot of things you guys don't see because I've got some NDAs that I can't really talk too much about them. Not to try to sound fancy and stuff about it, but uh, if you guys are struggling with some stuff where like things are just like I can't find the time to do this or that, maybe just try that. Just actually reduce the amount of time you're asking yourself to do stuff. Like don't say, you know what, I need to do portfolio and your convention's in like a couple months. Instead of waiting for the week before and just spending all night just grinding that stuff out, just set away like an hour a day to just do like maybe like look at okay, like let's just say I was done right now, okay, because the stream's pretty much done, and this I dedicated this hour to just being able to draw this. This is all I do. I walk away. What it's saying is that like yeah, I still did stuff here, right? It's not like I went, okay, well, I have to finish this page one tonight, and let's say this is how far I got. So now I know the rest of my night, or now I'm losing sleep, and that sort of thing. And just to paraphrase it again, because I know I'm going in circles, is if you had like an absolute tight deadline, this doesn't really work for that. You gotta really do it. But if you know that you have a deadline that's, let's say, in 2 weeks, you can start doing small work now so that you don't burn yourself out at the end. Just something else you guys can try if you guys are interested in that. So let me just go up. So you guys are talking quite a bit. I want to make sure I'm talking to you guys here. All right, Noah loves Seinfeld too. Awesome. Banff, John Williams soundtrack. Love it. Love it. Unsung is saying, Jar, what would happen if you took your Seinfeld time and turned it into comic book dry time? If I did that, well, one of two things to happen. Most likely, you're obviously going to get more work done. Or the second part that happens is, I just noticed this on myself. I just get stressed out and I don't really end up working anyway. Or I start working really slow and, excuse me, distractions start becoming very, very intrusive and I can't really fight them. But I should say too that most of this stuff that I'm talking about, like you have to have some discipline here. It's not just throw it to the wind and whatever. Like that stuff is while I'm eating and things like that. It's not like I'm just sitting there and just, well, this episode has to be done, right? Let's see what we got here. Yeah, 5 a.m. is pretty. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. All right, cool. All right, well, that's going to be the show today, you guys. Thank you so much. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap up, play our fun song. And I'm just going to keep drawing in here for the last 5 minutes. But thank you guys so much. I do appreciate it. So get ready to start seeing a lot of Jesop King. You don't like the character and stuff? That's cool. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I'm super, super pumped to get started finally on it. From what you guys have seen anyway, this is probably the furthest the furthest production I've gotten down on any personal project. So that's an accomplishment in and of itself, right? That's a little bit of fun time. But hopefully you guys dig it and you guys will stick around for the ride and have some fun. If at anything you look at a page for 5 seconds and go and close it, I mean that's fine. That's great. And if you guys are starting your own comics or mini comics or web comics, and if this is helping you guys get started, or if this is just getting you to think about possibly doing something, that's really all that matters. That's what makes me happy at the end of the day. So I can't. I'm sorry, guys. I appreciate you guys wanting me to stick around. But here's the downside to waking up at like 6 a.m. Right? It means I'm in bed by like 9 or 10, and it's 9 p.m. now. So it's pretty much bedtime. I can't wait to see until I'm like 60 or 70, because that's what my hours right now would be like if I was that old. So I'm like gonna be like, oh god, going to bed by 5 p.m. Be like a shrunken head at the end of all this. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Like usual, appreciate you guys stopping by. And if you're watching on YouTube and you'd like to be a part of the show, it's every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Picarto.tv. And stick around. Again, if you're on YouTube, you guys are going to see it. We're going to be moving to YouTube. It'll just be easier, better. And the quality, I don't know. It just seems like the quality's a little bit better. I don't know. Seem more fun and all that stuff. Okay, guys. So until next week, next Wednesday, you know how it goes. Keep reading comics. Keep making comics. And I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.